honor guard. It started quickly, all right. The cut and thrust of an unplanned battle. Some detested. Some avoided. Myself, to be honest, I preferred it this way. It seems more pure. Like we are clashing without the benefit of all of our many gifts. Our training, our seeming prescience gained from decades and centuries of battles won and lost. But these fast and furious engagements, I live for them. We came out of the Mandeville point right on top of them. Milling around, they were out of formation when we struck fast. Well, if they had a formation in the first place. Xenos scum. Greenskins. Their rocks were sitting around without any defined direction in mind, it seemed. A rarity indeed. As most often the greenskins are seen in huge armadas akin to hive fleets. Well, that is definitely hyperbole. But they are often as multitudinous as the very stars themselves. Hence these few must have been part of the larger push towards that small agri-world. We know they are coming, but these being here means that they are ahead of the projections of strategic prognostication. Either that, or they were meant to be some form of a vanguard or early strike, scouting our positions. But I feel I may be projecting in this regard. Although it is not unheard of, it is a rarity for an Orc boss to have such a defined grasp on the functions and facilities of war. They use pure power and aggression. None are usually versed in logistics and the greater canvas of a campaign. Yet somehow, they remain to be one of the most dangerous scourges. Despite it all, they are lethal. Never underestimate them has been my watchword, and I applied it in spades today. We took less than 10 seconds to scan the locale and lock on to targets around us. Without a second of hesitation, I delivered the orders that would lead our ships collaborating their lance batteries another shot to cripple and destroy their ships. By the time our power had returned from translating back into real space, and our guns were firing, their shields were still not up. Huge rents scorched across the flanks and faces of their massive ramshackle vessels. With so much oddity hanging off everything there, we could not really tell where to target. So we aimed at their most obvious protrusions and gun emplacements. The ships so large, barely more than converted by having propulsion stuck to meteors, I was well aware that this was really nothing more than a distraction. Our ships hosed them down with fire, as we double-timed it to the disembarkation bays. My men around me were left on boarding pods, 10 Astartes to each missile. As usual, I was flanked by Perseus and Peleus, my honor guard. 2 men that were Marines before my grandsire had even taken his first teetering steps. I sometimes wondered what they actually thought of my orders, my leadership. I could have asked them at any time, of course, but I never did. I did not fear their response. If they gave candid appraisal, then I would have been able to adapt to any source of failure or inefficiency. I simply did not wish to jeopardize our relationship with too much intimacy. I trusted that the captains who elected me, the chaplains who initiated me, the chapter master who had raised me, they all saw that which was required in me, and I try to live each day in such a way that their faith is not misplaced. It is all I can do. We have to move swiftly, for each of these rocks will need to be cleared from the inside, so we slam into the ships in our boarding missiles. We crash through the exterior, weapons digging and burning and melting their way through the outer layers before we finally stop, ensconced in the very center of the ship. But luck has not been with us today, for when the front ramps open, I lead our men out. We quickly discern we are cut off. Units dropped across the ship. We are all attempting to reach the same places, so the battles become a very close and personal thing. For I have directed all to try to get to the reactors, what these filth may call a bridge. Again, if they have such a thing. But in our dispersal, it seems our boarding pod went a bit astray, for we are now distant to any other unit. No plan survives contact with the enemy, they say, but this one will be regaled in the mess halls for quite some time, if we can get out of this alive. I order the other units to converge as soon as any bark out a pathway or location of anything approximating an engine or power source. The squads disperse around the ship, slaughtering the greenskins as they go, and it is a thing of purity what happens before my very eyes. The corridors of this greenskin ship look more like the burrowings of a huge worm through the middle of a mountain. It is dank and dark, and barely two can move abreast. And it is this that permits the show, the display. For Perseus and Peleus take their mighty storm shields and simply move to the front. Tides of greenskins slam towards us, but are nothing more than grist for the mill. My two honor guard do not permit any to pass them. Any. Their economic gladius strikes pull guts from the greenskins to spill out onto the floor, their every movement leading from one attack, one strike, straight into the next. And I and the assault squad beside me walk behind them on a carpet of blood, green viscera, severed limbs, decapitated heads. The greenskins. No matter how many hurl themselves at their shields, no matter what they fire down the corridor towards them, no matter how large or nasty they may be, all of them die, and the guard walk on. As I coordinate the rest of the assault and continue to view the display of my guard, I am struck by only one thought. Thank the Holy Throne. They are on our side. Welcome, gentle listener. I am Voldemort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and units of the Warhammer 40k universe, the grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. And today, we shall be taking a very brief look at the apex of the Space Marine's career that does not involve rank and position within the hierarchy. For some Space Marines are superb at their roles, but not equipped as lavishly with the potential to lead. Sometimes a fine warrior is just that, a fine warrior. They may not make a good general at all. Hence is this the ultimate pathway for those who do not hold those traits, yet outshine their brothers on the field, as a star does when set beside candles. They are the very best of the best, and can return the steel of a battle line by their mere presence. And so, as usual, for the very basics, let us lean on existing wisdom. To quote, Honor Guard. Every member of an honor guard is a living exemplar of the ideals for which the Emperor and the Primarchs intended the Space Marines to be forever known. Those of their number who have the privilege of holding aloft their chapter's banner are known as chapter entrants, while the most accomplished fighters of their number bear the title of chapter champion. Honor Guard. For a Space Marine to have become one of the chapter's honor guard is to have fulfilled many centuries of exceptionally courageous service. The honor guard are amongst their chapter's most taciturn and spiritually solemn individuals in repose, but also amongst the most ferocious and unyielding of its warriors in battle. Having performed deeds that lesser men could only dream of, each member of a chapter's honor guard has received the very highest honors and accolades that his brother Space Marines can bestow. Perhaps more impressive still are the deeds of those honor guards, such as those listed in the Record of Heroes within the Fortress of Hera on Macragge, who have won more victories in their service than a whole company of other Space Marines. The names of these legendary fighters are held in reverence by all the sons of Guilliman. Most Space Marine chapters have only a handful of honor guard, enough to form a distinct and capable fighting unit, but no more. A few chapters can muster as many as 24 honor guard, but it is a rare and terrible day when they all fight as one. So steeped in the trade of battle and blood are the members of the Honor Guard that their accumulated insights and understanding of warfare commonly outstrips even the experience of the chapter's captains. They rarely give unsolicited advice, for to do so is to risk undermining their commander's authority. Yet such restraint serves only to lend weight to an Honor Guard's words. An Honor Guard's war gear is drawn from amongst the most ancient relics of the chapter, so the Honor Guard enter the fray clad in ornate suits of artificer armor and wielding weapons that have seen battle in the hands of the chapter's greatest heroes of old. In battle, the Honor Guard commonly act as the chapter master's personal retinue. They are responsible for the safety of their commander, a duty carried out with stern fury and peerless restraint. Chapter Ancient. One battle brother amongst the Honor Guard may have the distinction of carrying the banner of the Ultramarines chapter into battle. This is a sacred task, one born with immense dignity and gravitas. Whether providing a rallying point to the warriors fighting around him, or racing to defiantly plant the standard upon a contested elevation, and in doing so claim the battlefield for his chapter, the Ancient serves to inspire all around him. The Ultramarines have several chapter banners, each evoking one of the chapter's greatest triumphs, although only one will be in use at any time. The value of each banner is measured in worlds, and they hang within shimmering suspension fields to preserve them from the ravages of time. At the outset of the Indomitus Crusade, Ancient Tortalis had the honor of bearing the standard. He was the first warrior to have this privilege in 2 centuries. For in the wake of the battle for Macragge, Marneus Calgar declared that none would carry it until the ravaged First Company was rebuilt. Never once did Tortalis falter, suffering terrible wounds as he exhorted his brothers to victory, fighting on and keeping the banner aloft no matter the danger he faced. Chapter Champion. The most skilled fighter of the chapter's Honor Guard is officially recognized as the chapter's champion. Wielding an energized blade in each hand, the superlative duelist is ready to challenge any enemy leader to single combat in his commander's stead, and all his training is bent to this goal. Such a singular display of martial superiority and devotion has been the salvation of more than one chapter master's life, and turned the tide of countless battles during the history of the Ultramarines chapter. At the cleansing of Anorix, chapter champion Domelicus Tygon slew a Drukhari Archon, sending the Xenos tyrant's minions into disarray as they fought amongst themselves to seize his power. During the Bedinia suppression, Icatoristus decapitated the foul word-bearer sorcerer, acting as the link to reality for legions of cornate demons butchering their way across that world. At the height of the Battle of Tigern City, champion Varro Orteras defeated a Harlequin solitaire before it could complete its bloody massacre of the Imperial Forces High Command. Such exploits make the Ultramarines chapter champion an exemplar to his brothers. Many hope to one day earn his title themselves, inspired and awed by the tales of glory and victory that accompany it. Victrix Honor Guard. Originally formed by Reboot Gilliman to accompany him on the Terran Crusade, the Victrix Honor Guard have since been officially instituted by Marneus Calgar. To many outsiders, the Victrix may appear an elite within an elite. It is certainly true that no Space Marine can join them without having first served in the Ultramarines Honor Guard, but the skills and attributes that make them warriors apart are not purely martial. They are instead appointed by Reboot Gilliman himself for their selflessness in battle and their ability to cast aside their own personal glory to ensure that the chapter is always victorious. Their creation not only suits Gilliman's desire to have his son's ranks made up of dedicated specialists, but also represents his firm belief that the shield is as important as the sword. The wargear they bear demonstrates this. Any foe that hopes to defeat the Victrix Guard must first break through storm shields as large as a mortal man, and if they are somehow successful in that regard, must outmatch the Victrix breathtaking skill with a blade. The gladius itself is a representation of the Victrix guard's role. It is best employed in quick, precise thrusts that nonetheless land with deadly force, an efficiency not purely for metaphor. In battle, Victrix guard can expect to be hard-pressed beyond almost all of their battle brothers, and every stab of their sword must slay an enemy if they are to be successful. Only deployed for campaigns of the greatest importance, they will be assigned to senior Ultramarines officers to ensure their personal protection at all costs. Isaurus Praenon, Trismeris Gerorian, Morvio Tyrilis. None of these names are celebrated across the Imperium, but without their sacrifice, Corpus Helix, the Ultramarines' chief apothecary, might not have been able to evacuate precious gene seed from the recruiting world of Sertara before it was overrun by Mortarian's Death Guard. Chaplain Cassius could have failed to prevent the fall of Agnuna to the world's gene-stealer cult, and may have lost his life to its patriarch and a horde of gene-stealers. Master of the Forge Fenius Maxim might have been unable to reach the broken void shield generators aboard the battle barge Severian in time to restore them before the ceaseless attacks of War Grorgnok destroyed the ancient warship. Hundreds of Ultramarines knelt as their bodies lay in state, and it is in these battles, as well as many others, that the bonds of brotherhood between the Ultramarines commanders and the Victrix Guard have been made unbreakable. End quote. Now clearly that was taken from the 8th edition Codex Supplement for the Ultramarines, which was an excellent little book in my mind. With the exception of the Victrix Guard, all of the previous statements are applicable to most of the chapters of Space Marines. Now the Blood Angels have the Sanguinary Guard as their equivalent, but no matter the arcane name or weaponry of the non-Codex chapters, there are always veterans, and always an honor guard in any chapter. For officers of the Space Marines are some of the rarest commodities in the galaxy. They need to be protected from themselves as much as from the enemy sometimes, for despite their age and experience, they are Adeptus Astartes. They are bred for war, the heady rush of combat a constant need, a thing as natural to them as breathing. Thus they are wont to act on autopilot and go into the thickest of the fight to turn the tide of battle. And these rare officers of the Marines, elevated through merit alone, are far too valuable to risk without recourse. It is the honor guard that not only keep the lieutenant or captain, chaplain or librarian in command alive, they also act much akin to the longbeards of the fantasy Dawi, the dwarves. For they are a wealth of experience, as we have heard, a constant support to a leader of men should he ever lose confidence or require secondary and very valuable opinions. To look through the eyes of a veteran who has seen countless battles, tasted both the heady draught of victory and the bitter sting of defeat. But unlike most warriors, they do not die of old age. They do not decline swiftly over the course of only a few scant decades. These are resources that have been stalking the battlefield for centuries. There truly have never been their like in all of the annals of human conflict. They are the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines. Thus are these men not merely exemplary warriors, not only shining paragons of the virtues that epitomize the Astartes, but, in my mind, they are the true heroes of the piece, for they guard the honor of the chapter. Honor that can take millennia to build, but mere seconds to throw away forever. Now the lore is finished, the game element comes in too, for I do adore the protection of a few sanguinary guard, my own equivalent of honor guard. For there are now so many snipers and assassins, warlord traits and odd weapons or artifacts in the setting, that your leaders are no longer safe near anywhere on the battlefield. And it can be a bit miserable having your leader's head turn into a canoe with the first shot of the game. Hence, if you value your buffs and banners, your litanies and abilities, it is always best to spend just a few more of those precious army points, including even just a pair of these little warriors. Now some enjoy nothing more than wrecking your finely plotted and placed overlapping advantages and guffawing as they take the scalp of your head honcho. I prefer to take my heads up close and personal, despite how much I love melters, melty. So to get that epic feel, and to prevent a scallywag messing up your plan, see if you cannot get a few in there. Trust me, the opportunity to kit bash a wonderful pair of honor guard is nothing to sniff at either. Just make a standard marine and roll him in bling and all the panoply of war and honor. Cover as much as you like with every single spare purity seal and icon. Then paint them up just that little bit better than the rest of your collection. And when you array your army for battle, you will see the leader of your army, shadowed by guards. Well, it will make him seem all the more important with an entourage, and definitely all the more sturdy, and thus more formidable. I have been Voldemort, your faithful servant. I hope you have enjoyed this brief introduction to Space Marine Honor Guard. If so, then please consider liking and subscribing. If you do, then hit the notifications button, as I would not want you to miss out. If you see the worth in what we are doing, then do also consider joining our Patreon, or giving the video a share if that is beyond your present scope. It would be a great boon. Now, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.